So Opus 4.8 is officially out, Gemini 3.5 is officially out, Codex GPT 5.5 is out. Everyone's saying one is better than the other. For the people who aren't so sure which to use or how to navigate all of these different models, you got Hermes and OpenClaw, and you have all these different AI companies, and it's just a lot of fluff. It's a lot of jumbled up information, and you want clarity, what to use for your workflow and why. I'm going to give that to you in this video. So to begin, it is extremely important to understand that being model agnostic is the way to go. That's the best way you can set yourself up in a leveraged position and not be subject to all of these different companies. You don't want to be married to Claude, and then when, Gemini is doing a lot better, you want to be able to switch to Gemini without that messing up your workflow. If you're just married to one company and you're just riding with that one company, your Opus 4.8, your Opus 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, and you're not playing with any other models, a couple of things. One, you're subject to that company that you're married to, whether that's OpenAI, whether that's Anthropic, whoever it is. Two, you're not going to learn as fast as you would if you were using a bunch of different tools, a bunch of different models. Now that extends to tools even. So we're talking about models, but even with tools, things like Composio, things like Higgsfield, things like all of these AI native tools, there's a bunch of them. They're doing updates all the time. I know it's a lot to kind of take in, but you need to adopt all of these different tools. You need to adopt all of these different models. The people who can successfully tinker with these and adopt all of these new ways of thinking, these new ways of conducting their business, these new tools to go about tasks within their business, they're going to be the ones who succeed in the long run. At the end of the day, you have to compare this one-to-one to computers coming out. You got all these different PC companies, you got all these different tools, things, capabilities that you can now do with a PC. Oh, boom, now the internet is here. The people that actually learn these things and the people that didn't just shut it all off and just completely blind their eyes to it and push it over to the side, those are the people that succeeded. We all know those people who used Android for the longest time. I don't want to use Apple. I don't want to use an Apple phone. You give them an iPhone and they've never gone back. There's no point in having pride in a company. There's no point in creating an enemy with another company. That's all psychological stuff that the companies are doing to keep you customers. So whatever Claude is doing, use it. Use all the good stuff that Claude's doing. Use all the good stuff that OpenAI is doing. Use all the good stuff that Gemini is doing. Use all the good stuff that Hermes is doing. Because when you do this, you now have an objective analysis and a neutral, organic analysis of all of the different tools, of all of the different models from your own experience. It's good to scroll Twitter and see what everyone's saying. It's good to look at YouTube, even a video like this, right? And see what everyone's saying. That's fine. That's still just strengthening your own opinion. But the most important thing is actually using these tools for yourself so you can know when within my workflow is it best to use Opus? When is it best to use Sonnet within my workflow? When is it best to use GPT within my workflow? This is a leveraged position. This is where you want to be. For example, my company, AI Drivers, we implement agentic AI infrastructure into businesses. So I'm doing a lot of development, a lot of building, but I'm also doing a lot of running my business, actually operating the business. There's the fulfillment, but then there's also the acquisition and the growth of the business itself. You can think of working in the business, working on the business. When I'm developing, when I'm in the process of building out an infrastructure for a company or building out their, operating system or a Hermes agent build, whatever it is, right? I'm using Codex for the nuts and bolts, for the actual infrastructure. I'm using Sonnet for copy generation. I'm using Opus for my brainstorming, my high level thinking, strategic, long running tasks. I'm also using Opus for user interface and user experience when it comes to dashboards, when it comes to platforms that I'm building. Gemini is obviously great for research. DeepSeek, for example, I'm using DeepSeek for very baseline, simple, recurring jobs, cron jobs, watchdogs, things like alerting me if my gateway is down for Hermes. Simple stuff, right? I'm in a position where I look at the task and I can decide what is the best tool or the best model for this task, as opposed to what is the best model and then let me put all of my tasks inside of it. There's a very, very significant difference between those two realities. On one side, you're completely reliant on this company, right? What's the best model? What's the best model? What's the best model? Opus 4.8? Okay, here's all of my business. Here's all of my tasks. Opus 4.8 isn't going to be the best model forever. And who's even to say it's the best model right now? The better way to go about it, like I said, okay, this is the task. Now that I have context of the task, what is the best model for that task? What is the best tool for that task. And in order to actually make that decision, make that analysis, you need to use the tools. Yes, watch YouTube videos, like I said. Yes, look at Twitter, but that's just 20% of it. The 80% of your knowledge, of your confidence, of your understanding comes from day-to-day use, comes from actually using these models and experiencing these models. I might tell you that Opus does very good for me when it comes to user interface, user experience. You might have a completely different experience using Opus for that. You might find that Gemini is the best for that. You might find that Codex is the best for that. That's completely fine. There's nuances in everyone's business. I don't know what business you run. Therefore, you need to know how these models work. You need to use all of these models so you can have an accurate understanding of what to use and when to use it. There is no magic model, all right? There is no clear winner. As much as you hear about Anthropic, as much as you hear about OpenAI, as much as you hear about Google with Perplexity Computer and Gemini, there's no clear winner. At least for the time being, right? It's just gonna be one gets ahead, the other matches it. One gets ahead, the other matches it, or it gets further. And it's just like this. Because of that, you don't want to be tied to a single company. Also, if another company comes along, I'm not saying this is gonna happen, but let's just say another company comes along, just as simple as OpenClaw coming out, just as simple as Hermes coming out. Yes, those aren't models, but it's the principle of if something new and objectively better were to come around, you're in a leveraged position to tinker with it, play with it right away. You don't want to have everything tied into one model or one company. Let's say you're using Claude for everything. And it's just a clear understanding that Codex, OpenAI, is significantly better than Claude. Let's say a month down the line, right? Codex blows Claude out of the water, but you run your entire business through Claude because you started using Claude, you got comfortable with Claude, and you just don't want to learn anything else. If Codex is completely blowing Claude out of the water, I know I just said that they're gonna go like this, but for the sake of the example, if you have to essentially stop what you're doing in your workflow, stop whatever you're building, stop whatever's running, and you need to rebuild everything, you gotta refactor stuff, you have, all of these Claude artifacts hard-coded into your code base, and you just want to switch it, that is, one, gonna take some time, it's gonna be annoying, it's painful, you don't want to be in that position. You want to have a completely independent operating system within your own computer that you own completely. The models don't own this, the companies don't own this. You own your infrastructure. This is why I implement infrastructure into other businesses. You need to own your infrastructure and then pass all of these models through it. Hermes and OpenClaw, these are like operators. These aren't AI models. These are capable, really they manage agents. They're capable operators. That's really the best way to put it. The point I'm trying to make is you don't want to be subject to not only a company, not only an AI model, not only a tool, but just anything. You want to be in a leveraged position. That goes for your clients, that goes for your business, that goes for everything. You want to be in a leveraged position. So specifically when it comes to AI and when it comes to all of these models, it's easier to set up your own independent operating system, your own infrastructure, your internal infrastructure for your own business, and you can just pass these models through because it's built that way from the ground up. You want to switch something from Opus 4.7 to 4.8? Easy switch. That's another thing. It's not just going from Opus to GPT 5.5. It's not just that. It's as simple as Opus 4.8 just released. If you have Opus 4.7 or 4.6 hard-coded into all of your code base, all of your functions, all of your tools, everything is hard-coded to 4.6, you're now gonna have to manually go through and update those things. That's not ideal. That is not a leveraged position to be in. Now, if you don't know how to build out your own internal infrastructure for your company or your own operating system, I do have other videos that can show you how. There are plenty of other creators that make videos that show you how. Don't overwhelm yourself by thinking you need to build everything. You need to build all of it right now. Let's say you've only been using Claude Code. Before you think of everything I just said, just start using Codex. Start playing around with Codex. Start playing around with Gemini. Start playing around with these different things. Start using different things, and naturally, you're going to have your own organic understanding of being model agnostic, not being subject to a specific model. Your system or your workflow or your company, it can be done using any model. They're interchangeable. You can substitute this for this. That's the position you want to be in. Didn't want to make this video too long. If you do have any questions, please drop a comment down below. Let me know what models you guys are using, or let me know if you guys are already running a model agnostic operation? If so, congratulations to you. I have other videos on the channel. You can follow me on Instagram, like, subscribe. I will be consistently pushing out a lot more walkthrough heavy. I like to have these kind of, just kind of, I speak my mind, current news, different topics, just kind of talk directly to you. But I also have my long form, like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, where I'm actually walking you through whether it's building with AI, whether it's building a landing page or things for your business, whatever it is. I do these walkthroughs as well, so feel free to check those out. My name is Elijah. I appreciate you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.